Then, MacArthur, do you mind just giving us a little overview of your many achievements?
Overview of achievements, crikey. The first was finding a sponsor, actually, to sail around the world, because in order to sail around the world you need to raise the funds. So I guess the first achievement was raising the funds to sail around the world. I then had an 8-year sailing career where I finished second in a solo around the world race, won 2 transatlantic races, then broke the solo non-stop around the world record. So a lot of sailing, a lot of record breaking on very big, powerful boats, and all of those races I was alone for. And then I left the solo around the world sailing and created the MacArthur Foundation, which has become the full-time sailing that I did, which is a charity with the goal of inspiring a generation across the world to rethink, redesign and build a positive future. It's based around the coherent framework of the circular economy and the innovation and creativity that brings to put a system in place for us all to live in the long term. So it's very much long-term thinking. And across all of that, I created another charity, the MacArthur Cancer Trust, in 2003, which takes young people sailing who are in recovery from cancer and leukemia.
Thank you. My next question is, I think I'm being a bit selfish because I'm a medical student, so I just wanted to know what inspired you starting this Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Cancer Foundation.
I started the Cancer Trust because of an experience in my own life. I had a friend who was a girl who worked with us. Her brother had had leukemia. He worked with a French charity that took young people in recovery from cancer and leukemia sailing. And he said, would I go along? And before I went, I was petrified. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I'd say to a young person who was recovering from cancer and leukemia. I was actually quite frightened. And within 5 minutes of getting on the boat, I was laughing more than I'd done in years. It was all about fun. All those young people wanted to be was normal. They just wanted to get on with their lives. And it inspired me so much because it showed me just what young people are capable of. And it showed me in a way what true courage was. Because many people say to me, sailing around the world on your own, you've got so much courage, it's amazing, you're so brave, and it's rubbish. You're not brave, and it's not really courage, because you choose it.
Right.
But those young people don't choose it.
Right.
And yet they do that with smiles on their faces, and they go through their treatment with smiles on their faces and the most unbelievable passion for life. And I found that such an inspiration that I wanted to set up something similar in the UK, because I could see that the ability to take them out of the hospital, the ability to take them away from their illness and in many ways their family who've had to deal with their illness, let them spread their wings. It let them get on with normal life. And with some young people, the difference, the change from being ill in hospital to being on a boat sailing was so strong that it was like a light. And they were away, and they wanted to get better, and they knew where they were going, and it could literally in 4 days that could change. It was amazing.
That sounds amazing. And then I guess this next question would be of interest for all the WISE learners, and any other learner who's really watching this video. Can you tell me more about? I know that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the vision is sustainability. But can you tell me specifics about what it is that you do? Because I read a lot about the theory and the mission statement of your foundation, but then I wanted to know more about how
we do it.
Yeah.
The foundation works in 3 areas. We work with education as our primary focus. We work in 14 to 19 through schools. We work in 11 to 14 in schools. We work in higher education and further education. That's the education sector. We work with businesses because we believe that this is a two-way approach. You need a generation of young people seeing a coherent framework for the future, seeing a way that we can redesign, rebuild the future so that it works in the long term.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need businesses who are doing that. Businesses who are changing business practice, who are looking at a different way of running the economics of the business. That's happening too. So those two parts are absolutely essential, all through this framework of the circular economy, which is where you design to be made again, you run ultimately on renewable energy, but you're building a system that is resilient and can run in the long term. And then the third sector we work in is communication. So that sits out over and above the education and the business side of things, communicating the message, taking the circular economy further afield.
That sounds wonderful and very cohesive. But I guess my next question is, can you just elaborate more about what you mean about a circular economy?
The idea of a circular economy is that you redesign by intention. So at the moment we have finite materials, and the price of our materials, because we're using more and more, the curve goes up. Those materials are getting more expensive and will continue to do so because they're finite, and they're also having more volatile prices, which is causing issues all over the world, from manufacturing to growing food, because the fossil fuel increase and the phosphorus increase in price. We've seen wheat prices almost double. Yeah. We've seen some huge issues because we're beginning to bump up against limits. Yeah. The idea of the circular economy is rather than using materials up, you just use them. So you use them rather than use them up. So when you design a vehicle, for example, you design the vehicle so it's made to be made again. The first line on the design brief says, this car is designed for disassembly. We need to be able to recover all the materials from this car, and we need to be able to make another car with those materials. And then you start to look at different business models, because that's not selling a car, maybe that's leasing a car, or maybe that's buying road miles. And then you look at washing machines, you look at carpet, you look at biological nutrients, and then you start to see that actually if you redesign a system whereby the technical materials like metals and plastics and polymers, they're made to be made again, they're totally cyclable, not recycling as we have today, because that downcycles and that degrades the quality of the material, because you're dealing with the problem at the end. We're saying at the beginning, when you design a product, design it so you can recover the materials. That becomes a design question, it becomes about innovation, creativity and thinking differently. So you have the technical side of things with the polymers, plastics, metals, and then you have the biological cycle, which could mean redesigning plastic bottles, plastic bags, all packaging in supermarkets, so that enters another cycle which produces agricultural value through fertiliser for farmland, which obviously is a huge challenge all over the world. So it's about rethinking a whole system.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing and somewhat overwhelming, because you're tackling a lot of different things. How far are we able to go with that realistically?
Already there are companies operating within a circular economy. There's a carpet manufacturer in Holland who's designed a carpet to be made again. It's totally disassemblable. You rent it, you don't buy it, it goes back to the factory, they deconstruct it, depolymerize the yarn, melt down the base, that becomes the base of the next carpet. And their aim is to do that using entirely renewable energy by 2025, at which point they'll know their costs for the next 25 years. It's quite an interesting business model. So there are companies out there doing this already, and a lot of the big companies, they're already on the road. So I think it's no one's there 100% yet, but it's about saying that's where I'm going. Because when I get there, this will work. So it's looking at the economics and the different business models, and even different words like return on resources rather than return on investment. Suddenly everything starts to change.
And then, so what role does your foundation play in all this model?
Our foundation is a communicator. So at the moment we're putting together a big report into the economics of circular economy, which comes out at the end of this week, which is a pretty big thing for the foundation. We work in education to inspire a generation with the material to allow young people to see how they can rethink and redesign a future that works through the framework of the circular economy. And we work with businesses to help to drive change and inspire thinking among CEOs, so that they too can see actually this is the place to get to.